This is Musical Talk.
Musical Talk.
The UK's independent musical theatre podcast.
Musical Talk. The UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. Taking the realm once again is David Herzog. You'll be hearing him chatting to Kirk Jameson, who is the director of the Kander and Ebb review The World Goes Round, that is now playing at the Union Theatre until the 8th of February. Kander and Ebb had huge success last year in London with the wonderful, wonderful Scottsboro Boys. It was, for me, the theatrical highlight of last year, so it's always nice to have some Kander and Ebb playing in town. So I'm going to hand you over to that interview now. Here it is. Enjoy it, and I'll see you on the other side.
Okay, so we're back here at the Union Theatre talking to Mr. Kirk Jameson, who is the director behind The World Goes Round, which is a fantastic review of Kander and Ebb. So, Kirk, thank you so much for joining us today and chatting with us about this.
You're welcome.
And so tell us how this particular production got started here at the Union, and whose idea was it to put it on in the first place?
Obviously, being raised on musical theatre, anyone who's remotely interested in musical theatre is going to be aware of Kander and Ebb's work. Yeah. And of course, I'm, very kind of interested in musical theatre, being a director of musicals. And so their work kind of hasn't gone unnoticed by me. I'm a massive fan of particularly Cabaret Chicago, as a lot of people are. They're kind of fundamental milestones within the history of musical theatre. Mm-hmm. And I'm a really big fan of some of their other work. Kiss of the Spider Woman, Scottsboro Boys, I just thought was sensational. And the film New York, New York, which they wrote the score for, the score for Funny Lady. They worked with Streisand, Minnelli, the work that they did with Bob Fosse and Liza Minnelli on Liza with a Z. I'm really aware of their career and of their work, and obviously was peripherally aware of this review quite a number of years. And so I applied to do it quite a few years ago, actually. I made 2 or 3 applications to do it, and every time it was denied for whatever reason. Maybe there was too much Kander and Ebb going on in town at the time.
Fair enough.
And so we got denied, and then all of a sudden I applied for it again, and I got the green light, which I was thrilled with. And so that was probably last summer, and I'd just committed to directing On a Clear Day You Can See Forever.
Beautiful piece.
It is a stunning show, and so it wasn't the right time to do it then. But I thought with the new year, it would be a perfect show for the new year. Oddly enough, because of the whole point of the show is about the world continues to spin irrespective of what's going on at the time, and a new year seemed like the perfect time to do the show, and so we scheduled it in for January.
Perfect. So you've got the green light, you got the go-ahead to do it. Mm-hmm. So tell us how the casting process was for you.
Well, I mean, obviously working on the Fringe, it's different to working normally, out in the West End, because there are financial issues, there are implications of doing things on the Fringe, there isn't as much money, and so normally you'd do a big audition process and you'd have rounds and whatever, and make eliminations. But with this version of the show, historically it's done with 5 actors who are all triple threats, singers, dancers, actors, and they're kind of in their mid-30s. And that's it, just five actors. But what I wanted to do with this version, I felt I became very aware the more I kind of researched it, that the whole thing was about retrospect, the whole thing was about looking back. And to me, there's more poignancy looking back if you have a little bit of age on your side. It's one thing a 30-year-old looking back on his life, but it's another thing a 60-year-old looking back on his life. I think there's more poignancy, there's more weight to be had with the latter. And so I decided, this is a very long answer by the way, I apologise.
It's fine.
I decided that I wanted the general age of my cast to be bumped up by 10, 15, maybe even 20 years. So I was using people in their 40s, 50s and 60s. And so, as a result, the casting became even more difficult, because when you have seasoned performers in their 50s and 60s, it's very difficult to say, will you come and audition for this show that I'm not going to pay you much money for?
Right.
And so it was a case of making offers, and I found we went through a lot of different people. We kind of went through a lot of different ideas of people who'd be right for the show, and I made offers to everyone in the cast, and I either knew them personally, Simon Green and I have worked together before, or I knew them and they had great recommendations from Sasha particularly, and Emma Francis being one of them, who had worked here previously playing Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd.
Oh, okay. Lovely.
Yeah, Sasha's production. In fact, I had I'll be honest, I had met every single person in the cast previously, in the older cast, that is, the 5 singers. That was quite a nice way in.
Okay.
But yes, we certainly didn't get Gareth Snook and Simon Green in to audition for us. We just made an offer, and hoped that they'd say yes.
We've talked a little bit about the history of this particular production, who people can expect to see in it. We know that it's a Kander and Ebb review.
That's right.
What are some of the shows that are covered in the piece?
Well, there's the usual suspects when it comes to Kander and Ebb. There's Chicago, Cabaret, Kiss the Spider Woman. They also wrote the score for New York, New York, which is a Martin Scorsese film with Minnelli and Robert De Niro. And 2 songs from that are featured, New York, New York being one of them, of course, and The World Goes Round, which is, of course, the title for the review. And then there's some kind of their lesser-known works, Woman of the Year, The Rink, Flora the Red Menace, they're all kind of featured as well within the show. And, some songs from The Act, which was another collaboration that they did with Liza Minnelli on Broadway. I think she won a Tony for that.
Okay.
It's just a great cross-section of their work, and such a good celebration, and my goodness, can they write a song.
Absolutely. Now, is there a through line through the piece at all?
Well, there isn't actually. When it was developed originally, it was very, very much done as an original, a classic style review. Mm-hmm. Susan Stroman conceived it, so I can only imagine that the original production was flawlessly incredible.
Right.
I'm a massive fan of Susan Stroman.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they developed it, and there are very, very, very tiny little links.
Okay.
Occasionally there's a link, but actually in this production, when I started to look into what the piece was about, because I've spoken to people quite a lot about why I chose to do the show, because that's, of course, the question that people ask me is, why do you choose to do the show? Mm-hmm. And I was really aware, despite being a huge fan of Kander and Ebb and their work, that's not really enough of a reason to tackle their work.
Okay.
Because, who wants to go and see a production of A Midsummer Night's Dream from the director who likes Shakespeare? Mm-hmm. Well, that's not enough for a reason. You've got to have a concept, you've got to have an idea. Mm-hmm. And so just because you like the writer, it's not enough of an idea, it's not enough of a strength to take on the show. Of course it helps. You have to like the person that you're representing in the space, but it can't be the only idea. And so when I was kind of taking on the piece and doing some research, I realised that it was about a lot of people looking back on romances in their lives and instances in their lives and these relationships. And so, as I've already said, I pushed the age of the cast up. And then what I did do to introduce a concept for the show is I introduced 5 younger players. Right. So it's a little bit Follies. I mean, it's not a new concept. It's not something that's brand new, that's, completely cutting edge. But it's a tried and tested thing that I think worked, and it seemed to really serve this piece when you're looking back on the careers of 2 writers who basically reigned supreme on Broadway for 30 years, and you're looking back retrospectively at their work. How great then also to use the characters featured in the evening in the same vein and let them look back over their lives retrospectively, and not only look back but connect both emotionally and physically with those memories. So by having these 5 younger players, which we've introduced into this production, the hope is that they can connect and interact physically with these memories, and hopefully again that offers more weight and poignancy to the evening.
Excellent. So speak a little bit more stylistically about the piece, perhaps in terms of design, because you spoke about your directing style and some of your directing choices in terms of the style. What can people expect to see visually, style-wise, when they come to see the show?
And what I've done is I've used this idea of, Kander and Ebb was they had a real style.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a real tone and a real approach to all their shows, which, funnily enough, ties them together. You kind of could, if you didn't know that it was their work, you could kind of guess, because they have a real tone. And there's something, they're very synonymous with jazz, with that type of music. There's something about Kander and Ebb and jazz, and they're very connected to this idea of performance and vaudeville and cabaret. So we've kind of used those words and those settings to inspire the production, and so there's a very, very much a feel of vaudeville, of on and off stage performance. So what we might say in performance in life, and then what we might really be thinking, which of course is the offstage version. So that's kind of inspired the production and inspired the look and the feel. But aesthetically, hopefully, it's fairly stripped back so the music can speak for itself. On a staging level, there are more intricate moments, and there are things where we have pushed boundaries and we have hopefully applied something a little bit different.
Sure.
But on a set level, it's quite basic. I hope that's kind of the point.
It sounds like it then puts more emphasis on the songs and the music, which is what the show is all about.
Well,
anyway.
I hope so, but as I've already said, I hope that's the case, and certainly for a good half of the show, it is just a case of the actors standing and delivering the material, which I think is really, really important. But as I've already said, for me as a director, that's not enough of a reason to do the show. Otherwise, what I'm doing then is riding on the coattails of two hugely successful Broadway and going, oh, here's a review of their work, aren't I fabulous?
Right.
That's not good enough. So I kind of have to put my neck on the line as well, and I have to put myself out there, and it has to be an opportunity for me to make an impact, and that's what I've done. And so with the other half of the show, that isn't just standing and singing,
Right.
I've applied some ideas and some concepts and some angles on the approach of each song, and hopefully there's something to be enjoyed. It's really split people.
Yeah.
It's really split people.
Okay.
Some people absolutely love it, and a couple of people, bloggers, dare I say that word, they think it's that they would have rather the whole evening be just stand and sing.
Okay.
Which is, of course, who doesn't want to see that? But you know, for me as a director, I couldn't have done that. I think it would have been lazy and unadventurous, and.
Fair enough.
And why would I bother doing that? Let Susan Stroman do that, who knew them intimately as
Right.
friends. That's a good reason to do it, because you love them as people, and they've literally, verbally given you their blessing to do the show. Then, fine, do a stand and sing. But when you're a director doing a revival of something, you have to have an idea. Otherwise, it just gets boring.
Yeah, and it gives it substance, which is the opposite of boring, which is what you want to go for, isn't it?
I hope so. I really like what we've done with the show, and visually, Tom Boucher, our lighting designer, has done an incredible job. Sam Spencer-Lane, who I worked with before, what a challenge to take on the show choreographically when it is so synonymous with Fosse,
Right, sure.
I mean, it's a big thing for Susan Stroman to take the show on, all those years ago. But, because Bob Fosse and Kander and Ebb are so interlinked as two forces, and he is a master, a genius, and has this incredible legacy, the work he did in Chicago, the work he did on Cabaret, the work he did on Liza with a Z is just second to none. And it kind of has become its own genre and its own period and its own milestone. And so for a choreographer to take those songs on is a biggie.
Yeah.
And she's done a fantastic job. Sam is really talented and has done a wonderful job, and she's used the space so well, and she's alluded to Fosse's style but not been dictated to by it. So I think she's done a fantastic job.
Brilliant. It sounds like there's a lot to look forward to, which is wonderful. What's the audience reaction been like so far?
Do you know what? It's been absolutely fantastic. I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled with the feedback we've had. And not shocked is the wrong word, because it makes me sound like I didn't have the confidence. But
Right.
as any director will tell you, and as I'm any director would tell me, when you get close to a press night or the time when audiences are going to start coming in and essentially judge the work, you start to get a bit shaky and a bit
Certainly.
terrified.
Goes with the territory,
yes,
doesn't
of
it?
course. Because all of a sudden you go, oh my God, is this good? I can't see it anymore.
Right.
And what I then have to do is have faith in those moments, because what I do is I I'd take myself away, normally to a park or a coffee shop or something, and I listen to the soundtrack, read the script, do the research, and completely submerse myself in the world of the show. Of course, as every director does.
Right.
As every director does. And during those moments, I make little decisions and stage little things in my head and imagine how it will look and imagine how it will feel. And I occasionally in those moments get very excited and think, that really works. I really like that. That's really exciting. That excites me. I would want to see that as an audience member. And so in the terrified moments during the lead up to opening night, I have to remember those moments where I was excited by the idea when I first thought of it, and remember those moments when I had real confidence in the ideas and where I really believed in them, and think, Kirk, the ideas are good. You didn't just throw them together. You thought them through, and you liked them when you first thought of them. And so just because you can't remember that now, trust that the first time you thought of it, you liked it. And because, of course, when you've not only thought of the idea, but then you've spoken about it, and then you've realised it in the rehearsal room, and you become completely desensitised to it, and you can't see it anymore.
Right.
And some of the way that we've staged some of these numbers is so different to how people would know them, and I'm really thrilled that some of the reviews and the critics and the feedback have picked up on that. Mm-hmm. But it's so different but you forget that it's different.
Right.
You just go, oh, that's the way it's staged now, in my head. Mm-hmm. Mr. Cellophane is a drunk. The woman singing all that jazz is a bored housewife. Okay. And Kiss of the Spider Woman is about a man who's in the middle of some kind of crazy vaudeville act, death-defying act, which are the devices that we've employed for the show. But of course, none of the numbers are really that in their truest form in the shows that they come from. And when you first have those ideas, you think, great, that's really original, that's really different, I really like it, and it works. But then, as I say, when you've seen it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 100 times, then you stop being inspired by the original idea, and you just start going, oh my God, am I crazy? Have I done something completely ridiculous? But you've just got to remember that when you first thought of it, you liked it.
And then the audience comes in and then validates.
Yes, they do. They have. I mean, I don't want to sound arrogant, but they have validated it, and they have said that the decision, I really like that. Well, I would never have thought of doing it like that. That's really different. And you know what? That's all I can hope for. And and a couple of people have gone, why did you do that? Why did you do that? But they're the people who would have had me doing Glossy Fossy. Right. They're the people who would have had me do a whole evening tribute to Fosse and doing everything with a bowler hat and white gloves. Right. Well, I'm just not willing to go there. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things that was absolutely fundamental when we took the show on, Sam and I said to her, and she said to me, if you see me do anything Fosse-like, run in and slap my wrist, because we can't do that. Right. Because why would you do that? And to the people who didn't like some of the ideas, great, good on you, thanks for the feedback. But I wanted to do something different, and I didn't want to regurgitate something that's been done before, because what's the future of theatre then? We're still going to be watching Les Mis in 100 years if someone doesn't do something different. Right, exactly. And theatre has to move on. It has to move on, and someone has to be brave and take the step forward and do something different. And sometimes it doesn't work. But hurrah for trying, is what I say.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
Look at The Light Princess. I don't know whether you've seen it.
I've not, no.
But it's, oh my goodness, you haven't?
Not yet, no.
Oh, you have to.
I'm planning on it.
You have to. But, the work on that show has completely divided audiences, because it's so brave, I think, personally, for a musical, not for theatre, but it's just brave for a musical, that some people just don't like it. And they're saying, and God forbid I would ever be with this person, but there's people who say it doesn't know what it is. That's such an infuriating comment to me, because I think why are you trying to categorise it? Why are you trying to label it? It's theatre, it's art, it's live performance.
Right, exactly.
Why does it have to be anything more than that? That's completely it. And once upon a time, the musical didn't exist. It didn't exist. It was, operettas that, and once upon a time, operettas didn't exist. It was just opera or ballet or a play. So the theatre is being reborn and rediscovered and pushed and moved and stretched all the time. And these people who are saying, it doesn't know what it is, it's too brave, it's too out there. Well, thank goodness they're not in charge of pushing theatre forward and changing the boundaries of theatre, because if they were, we'd still be mounting revivals of South Pacific, which, by the way, completely have their place. And I couldn't love South Pacific more, but we need a healthy balance of South Pacifics and Light Princesses.
Right, exactly.
Otherwise, it just gets stale.
Absolutely.
Bad diet. South Pacific. Too much South Pacific. It's bad for you.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. It's everything has their place, and like you said, you need an appropriate balance. You don't want carbon copies of things that have already been. Like you were saying before, you could easily fall into the trap with the production like this of making it glossy. That's the perfect word for it as well. A nice, glossy, Bob Fosse-esque show. But if people want that, they can go and buy the DVD of the old review Fosse, as opposed to come and see something new and inventive.
Why would we ever try to do that? Because, frankly, how can I take on Fosse? He's an absolute legend. He's a master and a genius. And how could I even go there? Not even worth it. And also, as you rightly say, it's been done. It's been done, and it's been done really, really well. Why would I even go there? And the production of Chicago that was on for 15 years in the West End, the Encores version. I mean, it was a movement within itself, really. It re-inspired so many different people. It reconnected them with that era, with that movement. And, Fosse came back, of course, and had that run at the Prince of Wales in town. And, that was a whole thing, and it was so en vogue. It was so the thing at the time. And now, if we still do that, we're in danger of being dated.
Absolutely.
And I was doing bowler hats and white gloves when I was at college, because Fosse was on in London and I was up north. And everything had a bowler hat in it when I was at college. All the second term development pieces. Everything had a bowler hat, even if it was Pinter. Bowler hat somewhere, because that was totally the time. But times have moved on, and all of a sudden, that's no longer relevant. It has to stay there, and we have to move forward. And so when. The new production of Cabaret that was done in town with Rufus Norris. That was such a departure from Fosse's version.
It was,
and such an original and brave and captivating version of the show. And that's why it got such recognition, because he moved on and did something different with it and wasn't dictated to by. And of course he wasn't. He's bloody Rufus. Of course he wasn't going to. But. That's what it's all about, and in the shadow of people like Rufus and Susan Stroman and people like that, I'm not even a baby compared to them. I'm less than a baby compared to them, but I let them inspire me, and I let them their movements and their choices inspire mine, because I respect them and admire them so much.
And that's exactly the way to do it. Everybody is an individual. Everybody has their own talents, their own strengths that they can bring to it. And I think that's exactly what people will be able to see when they come see The World Goes Round. They'll see a healthy dose of certainly your style, but then the style that is influenced by Kander and Ebb, obviously, as well. So that makes it very exciting, makes it very unique as well, which is very, very important. Yeah.
I mean, it's really exciting for me, because it's nice to start honing a style.
Sure.
And it's nice to start realising what your style is. I mean, I've only been directing for 4.5 years now. I'm still very, very green. I'm still very, very new. But I'm starting to develop a style, and I'm starting to know what I can do and what my strengths are and what I don't do very well and what I need, help with. And this has been a massive learning curve for me on so many different reasons. But it has been lovely to start getting a real feel for my style and what I do well, and actually going, oh no, that's actually a bit mad, that's actually a bit out there, and going, no, it's not. We can do that. I can do that. That's fine. Mm-hmm. And I think, funnily enough, doing this straight off the back of directing Seussical at the Arts, because literally I opened Seussical and then 2 days later started rehearsal on this. Mm-hmm. And Seussical, I mean, Dr. Seuss is the most bonkers writer in the history of writing ever.
Absolutely, yeah.
And my creativity and imagination was unlocked to such a degree that when I came in here, there were no boundaries. There was nothing too absurd or ridiculous. I just did it. I just went for it. And then, of course, you see it 2 weeks later and go, that's mental, take it out. But some of the stuff, some of the doors that you unlocked remain open and they stay in the show. And that's really exciting. It's really exciting. And I got to stage a number in the show. I staged lots of numbers. I got to stage a routine, which I've never really done before. Okay. But I actually had a little go choreographing as well. I choreographed the opening number of Act 2, which is Ring Them Bells. Mm-hmm. And it's it's more staging than it is choreography. But it was a really, really exciting thing to do for me because, I think as I get more confident, I think that will happen more and more frequently within the shows I direct. Mm-hmm. I will take on numbers in a staging / choreography way as well.
So go ahead and tell us a little bit more about some of the individual performers in here and some of the talent that's on offer here.
We're really lucky to have assembled quite a wonderful team of actors, actually. Gareth Snook, who is one of our male actors in the show, he's just got a career, the most wonderful career and a CV that goes on for days. I mean, he's most recently finished playing Monsieur Andre in Phantom of the Opera, and he also did the 25th anniversary celebration at the Royal Albert Hall, playing the same part. But Gareth had an incredible career. He created the role of Artie Green in Sunset Boulevard.
Oh wow!
He also was in the original London production of The Rink and worked very closely with Kander and Ebb when they came over to do the show. It's a great connection. Mm-hmm. And he's a real class actor, and he's a great actor. And it was so exciting to collaborate with him. We worked together on on his numbers, and it was he brought a real exciting tone to the numbers, and actually 2 of his numbers are probably 2 of my bravest on a staging point of view, and of course he made it so easy, and he's such a good actor, so it was great. Then Simon Green, who again I actually worked with in Phantom, he did the 25th anniversary production, which was redirected by Lawrence Connor and supervised by Matthew Bourne, and we worked together on that job. I was an actor in that show, and he's very lovely, and he came and did it, and he's again a CV that goes on forever. Simon's done some wonderful stuff. He's a real seasoned performer, and he brings a sense of performance and style that you can't teach, I don't think. There's something that Simon has in his delivery which it's just very unique and there's something, I don't want to say it's but it is of that generation. It's so he's so smooth and so kind of grounded, and he's lovely to watch, really lovely to watch, and he takes it very, very seriously. Lisa Stocker, who is she was the original Sophie in Mamma Mia.
That's right. Yep.
And she plays Sarah Brown in Guys and Dolls, I think the Donmar production, and funnily enough, she's Norwegian. That's where she's from, and she's just voiced the Disney princess for Frozen in the Norwegian translation, so we don't hear the end of that. That's just, have I told you about Frozen? Yes, Lisa, you have, twice today. We're very lucky to have her. Lisa is so natural and beautiful and delicate, and she is captivating on stage, really, really captivating. I cannot for the life of me imagine why she isn't a huge star a huge star. I know she's very, very big in Norway, where she comes from, but why the West End haven't caught on yet is absolutely beyond me. She is a sensation, and we're very lucky to have her. She's so tender and so delicate and so sophisticated and poised. We're very lucky to have her. She's beautiful. And I met Lisa on The Baker's Wife that we did together. When we directed it here. Michael Strasson directed it, and I assisted, and she played Genevieve. Genevieve, that's right. Sorry.
All of the above.
And then we also have Emma Francis, who, as I said before, she did Mrs. Lovett in Sasha's production of Sweeney Todd here, and Susan Fay, who. It's a really lovely story, actually, because I did a production of Dames at Sea here, a revival of Dames at Sea a few years ago, and we cast Susan as Mona Kent in the production, and it was a beautiful production. And basically what happened is a week into rehearsals, Susan had to drop out for various reasons, and so she took another job, a very well-paid job, I might add, so completely understandably she had to leave us. And her replacement, bizarrely, was the incredible Rosemary Ash. Rosie came and replaced Susan and played Mona Kent and was a complete and utter sensation, and I fell in love with Rosie then and there, and I'm still completely head over heels. So it was such a great thing when this production came round, where this project came round, for us to then go, actually, Susan, maybe now this is the time. And Susan came back and went, I'd love to do it. And so now, 4 years later, we've had the chance to work with Susan, and we finally got to work together, and it's been lovely. And she's such a lovely lady and such a hard worker. So it's been great. So yeah, they're the five, and they all have their own unique, wonderful energy and something that they bring to the show. You know, it's been a great experience. It's been lovely.
Thank you so much for speaking to us today. This all sounds very exciting, very wonderful. Could you please just very quickly give us just the basic details of where folks can find information about the show? And we'll, of course, mention it at the end of the podcast, as usual, folks. But what's the website?
So it's www.uniontheatre.biz, I think, which is a little bit out there, a little bit
easy
different.
to remember. It's all good.
Yeah, and of course you can ring the box office, the number which I don't have, but I'm sure you'll provide.
That's okay. We'll give it to you
later.
at the end. Yeah.
Yes, you can also follow the Union Theatre on Twitter at the Union Theatre.
Thanks for speaking with us today, and we look forward to hearing some more exciting stuff for you in the future.
No problem. It's lovely speaking to you.
Thank you very much, David, for doing that. So there you go. The world continues to go round at the Union Theatre, and to book tickets for the show, you can go to uniontheatre.biz, or you can call 0207 261 9876. Thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. We'll be back next week with another episode. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.